Hello comrades, Commissar bro here today with one of my favorite games of all time. Now you guys know I've already done a few series on this game, however the importance of today is the fact that they've released it on Steam. That's right, they had the previous version, Making History: The Calm and the Storm. However, this is the updated version, the Gold Edition, Making History: The Calm and the Storm Gold Edition, where Muzzy Lane went back, did a bunch of UI updates, did a bunch of combat updates, and added in a whole ton of scenarios. And even did, I know this is going to sound minor, but even changed the colors of a lot of the countries. Like the Soviet Union used to be this bright-ass red that just hurts your eyes. So, like, again, it's a lot of small stuff, but it has completely revamped this game, and again, this is one of my favorite games of all time, by far. And the fact that it's on Steam now has just added a whole bunch of replayability for me, especially if they manage to add in Steam Workshop features. So yeah, I'm pretty freaking excited. Without further ado, to those who are new to this series or have never seen me do a video about it before, which more than likely most of you won't, I feel as if I should explain how this game works, what this game is about, so on and so forth. So, basically, Making History in its base scenarios is essentially you choose a country, whether it be Germany, France, England, or whoever. You can literally play any country on this entire map, and kind of like an Axis and Allies style of game. Think Axis and Allies, yet add in way more depth, like actual resource management, actual technological management, diplomacy, etc., etc. It goes on. No playthrough of this game is ever going to be the same, just as FYI. So, let's explain the basics. First off, you have resources. Everything in this game has some sort of resource cost. Like if you're building, for example, let's take a look at arms, okay? Arms. Arms are guns, weapons. You need the guns and the weapons to fuel your armies. If we look up here at the top left with the helmet and the crossed guns, it gets below that number. So basically, let's say it's minus 100 and I'm already at 0. It's going to start affecting our supply level, and it's going to start affecting the actual effectiveness of our armies. So if I have a land attack of let's just say 1,000, and I have a minus 50 and armed shortage penalty, that means I'm only actually going to do 500 worth of attack. It's a huge, huge problem. So you want to make sure you're fully stocked on arms. Now, arms cost oil, just one arm basically would cost 1 oil, 1 coal, 1 metal. So with that in mind, if you have industrial output of 16, which you can increase right here with heavy industry, or as you get higher advanced infantry or industry, so on and so forth, which basically gives you more industrial output, and it goes up by 1 number at a time. So what we're going to do is I'm going to try to show that to you real quick. It's going to take 3 turns. All right, so 1, okay, 2, okay, and 3. So now if we look, bam. Our industrial output just went up to 17. That means we can now produce 17 arms rather than just 16. So that gives you, again, a base idea of how that works. Again, everything costs something in this game. With heavy industry, it actually costs 40 IPUs to get up to that amount. So if you're producing at 17, it'll take you 3 turns to get that. It's going to cost 1 coal per unit, basically, per IPU you're pushing out. So to increase this by 40 IPUs, which will take 3 turns, it's going to take 40 tons of coal. We'll just say tons. Or million, I think it's millions of tons or something like that. Now, your regions also have population, so unskilled labor. Unskilled labor is basically your farmers and so on and so forth. The more you industrialize an area, the less food you're going to produce in that area. Not to mention, depending on the terrain of the area, it may affect how much you're going to produce anyway. As you can see, Oldenburg does not produce as much food as Brandenburg. Brandenburg's got 4,000 manpower units, whereas Oldenburg's got 159. Again, basic stuff. Now you've also got coal and metal. As you can see here, this is a metal mine in Lower Saxony. What you can do, again, real basic, All you have to do is maximize it. That's what I do with everything, every time. Because as long as you have money, which you can make money very easily in this game with goods. So if you just basically, if you're producing goods, like we swapped that from arms to goods, we're now producing a little bit of money off that. Plus, if you start making positive goods, you can go onto the trade menu here, go to World Trade, and you can actually sell those goods. Let's say we're going to offer it on the market. Let's say 100 goods per turn. That's worth $30 million per week. So if we end our turn, end it one more time so it kicks in, bam, look at that. We're making 45 because all these countries are going to be purchasing our goods from us. However, now we're losing 100 goods a turn. So you want to be careful with that, obviously. Now, on the same menu as before with the industrial production, you've got research. Research is simple. You put a city into research, which we just put Berlin into research. Gives us 78. And then we go over here, and we have different research projects. Most of the stuff in the beginning, like early tanks, conscript infantry, you've already got. So you can actually go in and research, oh, let's say I want medium tanks. All right, medium tanks obviously are going to be upgraded versions of a tank division, a light tank division. So if we split that off, we can see one light tank division is going to have around 45 attack. Over here is an early tank division. We pop that out, and look, so that's only 22. And then we go to this, to 45, and a medium tank more than likely is going to be around 90, and so on and so forth. So again, that's a little bit of basics there. To use the trade, by the way, as I was explaining before, if say you're running low on resources, we want extra metal. All right, there's 403 offers on the market. All right, so the United States has 210. We can click that. We're now getting 210. We're paying them for it. So we're paying them around 12 million for that. And then you have random little events that happen and so on. So that's just a basic little look at how the actual economy of the game works. But how about the combat? That's really the biggest part of this game, is the combat that everyone, really enjoys. So we're going to merge those two armies together, and we're going to attack Czechoslovakia, because why not? So we're going to declare war on them, which we have just done. And let's get our air forces and merge them together into one giant blob of air forces. And we're also going to send in the 4th Corps to try to cut off the supplies to coming into the Sudetenland to make the invasion easier. We'll even bring in the 4th Air Force, drop it in Saxony, and the 7th Air Force, drop that in Saxony as well. And we'll merge those all together in a few turns here. Let's see. The 6th Army is barely protecting Moravia there, so we can also try to cut them off there as well. All right, we are now engaged in battle in these two regions now that we've ended our turn. So if we're looking, we've actually lost one division in the Sudetenland. It's an even fight, 129 and 129. So then you'll add in the bonuses to that. So 6%. We have a 6% bonus, but the Czechoslovakians have a much higher bonus of 3%, 5%, 8%. So 20% of a bonus. So we want to bring in our Air Force. Our Air Force is going to have a certain land attack. Merge all that together, 108. All right, so that's going to give us a massive advantage against the Czechoslovakian forces because they don't have a really powerful air force like us. Plus, we'll bring in the 5th Corps up there from, what's that, Schleswig-Holstein. Bring them in, and end our turn. All right, so our air force has arrived in the Sudetenland, and as you can see, the change is, it's huge. It's a huge difference. Not only did we get land reinforcements in there, but we also got our Air Force in now. And look at that. They lost 4 divisions in 1 week. Each turn is worth a week, so it would be 1 week. That's crazy. That's basically a rough, 30,000 men or so? Maybe a little bit more. I don't know. It's something like that. And then look, they just lost another 5. And boom, we have taken the Sudetenland from Czechoslovakia. We also went behind them and took Slovakia, and we're about to take Ruthenia. Boom, there we go. We have completely conquered Czechoslovakia, and we did it before turn 15. So the game operates incredibly simply. And again, if you want further details on how it works or so on, feel free to ask. I'll be glad to explain. Again, this is one of my favorite games of all time by far. Like, I love this game. It's got right mix of simplistic and depth. And the modability is insane. You can pretty much mod this game to do anything. My biggest complaint is that resources are limited. It makes sense. That's why you want to go conquer other places. But it sucks, because if you want to make this really ludicrously advanced civilization, well, there's going to be drawbacks somewhere, and more than likely it's going to be like food or something. So you have to make friends with someone who produces a lot of food, like China, for example, or the United States, sometimes Russia. Or try to conquer them if you can. But yeah, this has been Commissar Bro. I hope this helps you in choosing a video game. Again, I will admit I'm a little biased because I love this game, and I saw it on Steam and I couldn't help but purchase me another copy of it. Keep in mind, I probably bought like 5 copies of this game over the years. But yeah, I couldn't help but buy another copy to hopefully show it off to some Steam users who are curious about some gameplay. And this is basically how it works. This isn't a full tutorial for sure. There's a lot more stuff I could have gone into that I failed to. So yeah, keep that in mind. There's actually different values for like different units and different different speeds that units move at. There's infrastructure. There's fortifications. There's there's diplomacy levels with countries. There's navies. There's a whole bunch of stuff I didn't cover. I just tried to give a little basic how-to on how to start this game. But anyway, this has been Commissar Bro, and I'll see you next time.